Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, mostly today I wanted to talk about the upcoming Week 6 game at MetLife Stadium against the Cincinnati Bengals, but I do want to touch on one thing going back to Week 5 against Seattle before we get into that. Um, Reporting from Dan Duggan of The Athletic said that head coach Brian Daboll lit into the Giants at halftime of that game, a game that was a 10-10 tie, game that the Giants had dominated. And except for an Eric Gray fumble that Seattle turned into a 102-yard touchdown return that was a 14-point swing, should have been 7-0 Giants, and instead was 7-0 Seahawks. And really, one late drive by the Seahawks at the end of the half where the Seattle got a field goal that probably shouldn't have happened. Giants dominated that half, should have been up by a lot more than they actually were. And Daboll apparently lit into the Giants, told them that wasn't good enough, um, that they needed to do better. I'm not going to get into the language that he used, but it was not Daboll's usual approach with players. Players love Daboll. Daboll doesn't necessarily coddle players, but he is more or less a player's coach. For him to really light into his players in that particular way is not his usual method of communicating with players. And actually, when I think about it, I think it was probably called for. The Giants needed to be better. They needed to do better. They needed to be called out on what was going on the fact that they were shooting themselves in the foot in a game that they really needed to win. And it made me wonder if the coaching staff at 1-3 made me wonder if the staff has made a conscious decision to be a little harder on players, to be a little more in your face with players. And I thought about that because of the way Jerome Henderson, Giants defensive backs coach, publicly called out Deonte Banks last week for poor play against the Dallas Cowboys. Henderson actually said to media last week that Banks failed in that game against Dallas. And that kind of language from a coach, from an assistant coach, a position coach, that's not normal in terms of what you hear from coaches in the modern NFL. You usually hear positive spin, guys go out of their way not to say anything negative about these players who are used to being coddled. They're used to being told how good they are. They're used to having things their way. I mean, ever since a lot of these guys were in Pee Wee football, they've been told how great they are. They're not used to being publicly called out or have a coach at halftime. They don't see it very often to have a coach at halftime basically get in their face. And maybe the Giants needed that in the game against Seattle. The one thing I will say is that approach will not work all of the time. It will work on occasion. And Brian Daboll, in his third year with the Giants, as I said, he's a player's coach. He's built up the equity to be able to do that, to be able to call players out. And because they know that he has their back, that he's on their side, that he, that he cares about them, that he cares about winning. And as I said, I think he's built up a lot of equity with these guys because he's taken the time to get to know them, to get them to trust him, to get them to understand him. And you can get away with that in this today's age, in today's game. You can get away with that if you have a relationship with players. You can't get away with that if you really don't build that equity first. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting to learn that Dayball had done that. Thought that plus the Henderson thing from the other day was worth touching on quickly. But I do want to spin forward to week 6, to Sunday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. Giants have an opportunity to get to 3-3. It'd be the first time they've been at 500 since week 2 of the 2023 season. Giants at 2-3, Bengals at 1-4. Giants actually having won 2 of their last 3 games coming into Sunday. Giants will be underdogs in this game. FanDuel Sportsbook has the Giants as 3.5-point underdogs the last time I looked. I'm not surprised by that. There's still the hangover from what people expected of the Cincinnati Bengals at the beginning of the season. They expected this team to win 10 or 11 games, make the playoffs, maybe make a deep playoff run. No expectations for the New York Giants heading into the season. But it won't shock me if the Giants win this game on Sunday. The Bengals are a team that at 1-4, they sort of feel like a team that's on the verge of coming apart at the seams. Maybe they can get healthy against the Giants. Maybe they can get back on track. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I do think this is a game that the Giants can win. But in looking ahead to this game, in working on a storylines piece that I did Wednesday morning for Big Blue View for our website, I was thinking about a couple of things. I was thinking about the fact that the Giants are 0-2 at home this year. They're 0-2 at home, 2-1 on the road. They got blown out at home by Minnesota, and they didn't play well week 4 against Dallas in a game that was there for the Giants to win. But the Giants didn't take advantage of a Dallas team that was really ready to be beaten. Giants are 0-2 at home, 2-1 on the road, have played far better on the road. Big Blue View's Tony Del Genio did a piece on our site detailing how Daniel Jones, not only this year, but throughout his career, has historically played better on the road than he has in front of home fans at MetLife Stadium. It's interesting. I don't know if it's because of how fans treat Jones or how he must understand that there's just not a lot of belief in him in the fan base. And I don't know if that affects him. I don't know what it is, but Jones has historically not played his best football at home at MetLife in front of Giants fans. But 0-2 start at home, not what you want, not the way a good football team conducts its business. If the Giants want to take a step forward and be relevant in the NFC this year, at least be on the periphery of the playoff race, if not right smack in the middle of it, they need to start winning some home games. So we'll see if they can begin to change that on Sunday against a really struggling Cincinnati team on Sunday Night Football. And that's the other part of this that I wanted to mention. In doing some research, I was thinking about the fact that this is a primetime game. It's a home primetime game. And the combination of those two things is honestly not good for the New York Football Giants. I went back through the last several years. In fact, I went all the way back to 2017 and looked at the Giants in prime time. The Giants have played 27 games in prime time since the beginning of the 2017 season. 2016 was the last time they made the playoffs. They went 2-3 in 5 primetime games in 2016. But from 2017 forward through their game against Dallas on prime time in week 4. They are 4-23 in prime time slots and prime time football games. A lot of those losses have been lopsided, ugly, embarrassing losses. Some of them have been inexplicable losses where they beat themselves. I'm thinking about the Kansas City game the other day where they were offside on I think it was a field goal attempt that gave Kansas City another opportunity. Um, Offside on a third down, I think, as well. But where silly, silly penalties beat them in that game. But the point is, the Giants have been awful for a long time in prime time. It's no wonder that national media, national football fans, kind of snicker at the Giants because every time the Giants are in front of a national audience, they spit the bit, they implode, they get blown out, they do something dumb that costs them a game. So that's the impression that they're leaving with the national audience. So it's just a couple of historical things that are working against the Giants that I found interesting. Things that have to change if the Giants are going to be relevant in the NFC playoff race in 2024. All right, Giants fans, please check out bigblueview.com. Check out all of our coverage of the Giants versus the Cincinnati Bengals this coming Sunday as we get you ready for that game and as we cover the game itself and then break it down after the game, give you anything and everything that happens with your New York Giants. So please, please come and support the website. Sign up if you haven't done that already, so you can join the discussion with other Giants fans. So our community is a big one, active one, emotional one. Sometimes people aren't nice to each other, and that makes me mad. But that's the nature of the beast on the internet, I suppose. Anyway, please join the community if you haven't done so already. And please, as I said at the top of the show, support the channel by liking the video or subscribing to the channel. All right, Giants fans, please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.